Yep.
Hello there. My name is John Cheffers from Watchdog Research. I am a director of research, and today I have with me Joe Burke, our data scientist and PhD. Say hi, Joe.
Hi, everybody.
And I also have Brian Lawe, our president. Say hi, Brian.
How are you? Great to have you again.
And so today we're going to be talking about Under Armour. Under Armour is a company that has come to our attention because of a SEC investigation that was a criminal, actually, SEC investigation that was opened up or disclosed to the public in November of 2019. And that was a pretty big story. And we've looked at a number of the flags relating to Under Armour to try to dig into and understand what was going on at the company, because there's not a lot of information given in the company's disclosure. You know what I mean? There's a real, they say basically that the SEC has a criminal investigation potentially, and then they basically don't say anything else. So we've been trying to figure out what was going on, and so I wrote some blogs on it. We've really looked into our reports, and yeah, there's some interesting things going on, potential channel stuffing and that sort of good stuff. So, Joe, why don't you start us off on Under Armour and tell us a little bit about your understanding of what's going on here?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, you might be better at doing that. You've done the research and written a couple of the blogs on it. But yeah, looking at the investigation, please correct me if I don't want to misrepresent this. But it's a channel stuffing, basically overstating revenue in one quarter, and then so you report more sales than you actually did, and then but you offer a refund. So then the next quarter, the unsold part it's given back to the company, and so you're basically shifting the sales from one quarter to another. That's and there are a couple different ways to do that, and that's fraudulent. But with these executive compensation packages, they give. Then this is one of the things that some of the people looking into this have mentioned. You create incentives to do this because you don't. The incentives are tied to either quarterly performance, or that might be the last quarter in the year, which then becomes the annual performance. So you tie so much, millions of dollars of potential bonus money, potential executive compensation money to those revenue targets, and you give huge incentives to overstate, potentially overstating revenue and just shifting. Maybe it doesn't seem so wrong when you're doing it. Just saying a little bit more sales in one month or one quarter, and fewer sales the next. But that is fraudulent, and but the result of that fraud can be very lucrative for executives. And certainly, I'm not accusing those executives of that, but that seems to be the issue here that has caused them this. And of course, one of the things about the Watchdog report, they're not going to come out and tell you that they're doing these things. They're illegal and fraudulent. So all you can do is look. But we have the red and yellow flags that we have tell you indirectly, there may be some reason to question what's going on here. And I think you pointed out, John, because I was looking back here, seeing around the time 2017, 2018, these things are going on. One of the things that really jumps out in our report is that the change in the CEO, change in CFO, actually. They had a CFO here who, if you click on that and look at the history, yes. He's only there. He does not want to stick around. Lawrence Malloy, Brad Dickerson resigns. So that's 2016. But then Lawrence Malloy is appointed and resigns 1 year later. So from January 2016 to January 2017. A CFO in a position like this, now he cites personal and health reasons. But anytime you see the short-term CFO, and that'll be two CFO changes within a year, really. So the 2016 and then 2017, that is just, look, that is, if you're the CFO and you have to sign off on these financial statements and you don't like what you're seeing going on internally, you might not be willing to, you're not going to come right out to it's difficult to, bring it to the attention of the investors. So you kind of run from the problem is one potential interpretation of this. Again, we're not saying anybody did anything. We're not accusing it, but
Joe,
that is a red flag. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, I want to point out that I pulled up the 8K where they announced his resignation, and he didn't say due to personal health reasons. It just says personal reasons, which is even vaguer and even more concerning. If he had said personal health reasons, perhaps you thought maybe he was struggling with cancer or some other terrible illness. But simple personal reasons. It's really like,
I don't want to sign, and to his credit, and maybe he, if like I said, if he saw something he didn't want to be a part of, and didn't at this, but it couldn't really explain it, based on his role in the company at the time and how these things have to be handled. So just you don't want to be a part of it, and so you resign, and maybe don't explain yourself too much. That is something that investors can be aware of. Another thing I was looking at, before we started here, was the effect of this. I mean, so could you have seen this, like trouble on the rise? The CFO change is big. And then also we see in the Watchdog report that there were some SEC letters, but then there's like you kind of stop seeing them. If you go to the SEC letter conversations, there's a couple years there. So we have a green flag at the moment, but that's really because there are none. Like, well, a company like Under Armour, they had something 2017, 2018, and then you just kind of see the silence. And now we say green, but we've been discussing this internally, that silence may mean maybe there's actually an investigation, something more serious than just correspondence with the SEC. So that would be something for analysts to look at and question. Why have there been no correspondence since 2018? Might be indicative of maybe some more serious investigation, which seems to be the case here. And then but the consequences for investors, just tremendous loss of value in the stock, and the lawsuit now. Anyway, so the problems don't seem to have been gone away. I think it's a company that has a very widely recognized brand, and I think a lot of people see a lot of real potential in their future. But they really just have, to date at least, have not been able to move past this the sort of cloud hanging over them. And anyway, it's unfortunate.
I agree. Anyway, I think if you look at the chart here, which I have pulled up, that the consistent flags, you see the value of the stock really takes a hit when the CFO changes. And then it continues to sort of struggle along as more and more accounting issues come up. And then recently, obviously, it took a hit related to the coronavirus, which is not surprising. And they're a retail company. Now is a really great time for investors to be thinking about, can I get something like an Under Armour stock or some other stock like that, some other retailer at a great price now that everything's depressed, and you expect things to come back to normal eventually. But it's a good thing to look at the company's history to try to figure out whether or not is that stock going to completely rise back to normal, or is it going to continue to struggle from accounting related issues? And it seems like here there's more than just the coronavirus, pulling, acting as gravity on the stock. It seems like there's a lot of accounting related issues that they're still just really struggling with. Yeah,
I think was it you or that maybe another writer, something about the new CEO? Is he promoted from within the organization? Is that?
Let me.
Why don't we go look that up? So that I mean, just the importance of, you know, you need a turnaround, right? And so you need to have someone, whatever, you know, there's a cloud here. You don't want business as usual. And maybe he's a turnaround guy hired from within, maybe he is, but a lot of times, you know, you don't want someone who's become if it's a corporate culture that's allowed this to happen, it's, and there's with the big loss of value to investors, bringing someone outside is oftentimes a sign, at least to the investors, that, you know, things are going to be different. You're going to bring in someone and change the corporate culture. And so that's a signaling thing, you know, and maybe this guy can turn it around being hired from within, but oftentimes, you know, you want someone who's comes from an outside culture because there's a problem. How did this happen and how do we get past it? How do we show investors that things are different? You know, that new leadership, this Kevin, it's the CEO, I thought was potentially, yeah, that's a position change at the company, CFO, but also the Frisk, I thought, may also be.
Click on that 8K for Kevin Plank, if you would.
Yeah,
why don't we go? So we go right to the filings from that link. Yeah, so he will be.
He's the company's current president and chief operating officer. So they promoted the chief operating officer.
COO, yeah. So that, I mean, this is promoting from within, and that, you know, whether that's the going to be effective in changing the culture. I think there's a real, you know, that I think typically you want to hire from the outside if it's an issue of culture. You know, how did this happen, and we want to get past it. So I hope
John,
that they do get past it, but it's hard to do.